Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrunvannotibhisi Dasadanam. Om Shri Buddhi Shakti Siddhi Sahita Shri Mahaganadipate Namo Namaha. Om Shrim Rim Klim Glom Gam Ganapate Varavarada Sarvajanam Me Vashamanaya Svaha. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprava Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Om Vakratundaya Hum. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shri Hanumate Namaha. Welcome to Nitya Satsang. Today is the 11th of October 2025. I want to offer, Sachin offers prostrations, Anantakoti Namaskara to all the sages, bhaktas, devotees, Bhagavan ke jo bhakta hai, mumukshus, sadhakas throughout the world today, those seeking liberation, those on the spiritual path, and to everyone within whom God exists, which is everybody. God exists in everyone as the Chaitanyam. With that bhavana and prarthana, we're continuing to examine Brahmacharya and its connection to Prema Bhakti and its connection to Jivan Mukti. So please remember there's a triangle, and this is the triangle we'll be looking at throughout this year, most likely into next year also. The 2 points of the triangle are the same. That is Jivan Mukta Sthiti, Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukta ban sakte hai hum. We can actually reach that stage if we want to. We need to understand it first. And then the second point in that triangle is Prem Bhakti, Prema Bhakti or Prem Lakshana Bhakti, which is the 10th Bhakti. The third point is going to be all of those additional supports, those pieces that are required for these other two, for the Jivan Mukta Sthiti to come about. And we're examining Ashtang Yoga, and within Ashtang Yoga, we're looking at Brahmacharya, which is part of the Yama, the first stage. Right? So continue from yesterday. Today, I want to talk about now the path of Urdhva Reta Brahmacharya. This is the path taken by Vivekanand Swami, by Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Sajanand Swami Maharaj, Bhagwan Swami Narayan, Gnaneshwar Maharaj. It is taken by Raman Maharishi. It is a path taken by Swami Ram Tirth. Bahut sant ho gaye. And even today, there are thousands who try to do this. Now, what exactly is this path? So, this is a path of trying to achieve, particularly in the male body and in the female body also, but in a little different way, the complete conservation and changing the direction of the sex energy flow upward. This is called Urdhva. Urdhva meaning going upward in Sanskrit. The word Adha means to go downward. Like in the first slok of the chapter 15 of the Gita, Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakham Ashvatham Prahuravyayam. Right? So that Urdhva means that which is up above. Adha means which is below. And these two words should be in our mind very carefully to understand this path. And remember, this is a different path compared to the Grahastha path that we were talking about last several days, the householder path. The householder path is not this path. The householder path has bhoga. The householders, those who are engaged in sexual contact, they go through the sexual response cycle. Yes, definitely. But there are certain boundaries there in the Grahastha path. And there is also the growth of love, and eventually that love is the goal in both paths. The goal is the same in both paths. That is Jivan Mukta Sthiti. Living liberation stage or state of continuous unbroken living liberation. This is called Jivan Mukta Sthiti. Waha jana hai. Alright, now two different paths. So now today, let's go into this. Urdhva Retas. Retas is what? Retas is the internal essence of the sexual power that one holds. It's the essence, it's the quintessence that is called Retas. The example would be of the sugar cane. Another example of the sugar cane. The juice that is in the sugar cane, that is like the Retas. In the body, in the mind, in the senses, there's all kinds of energy flowing through. But the core energy, the undiluted juice, if you want to put it as in quotations, that is called Retas. And that is sublimated. So Urdhva Reta it's called. That is the word in Sanskrit. Urdhva Reta means one who is taking a path to sublimate 100% the entire sexual drive and instincts and process into sublimation state. Complete ojas conservation, sublimation state, where the loss of pranic shakti, because there's a certain loss in the orgasm ejaculation in the male body, and then same thing in the female body eventually when the female gets to an orgasm, right? So there's a loss of prana in that to some extent or another. There's a loss of energy in that, and it is from that loss of energy there is the creation of another life. That is the whole concept. That is the whole way the prakriti revolves. Right? Okay, now, but having understood that, again, we could spend years on that, but just, we've talked a bit about that already. Urdhva Reta is where a yogi, the yogi can be an Ashtang yogi, a yogi is a Gnani, Bhakti, any type of yoga. Bhakti Yoga, Gnan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Ashtang Yoga, Raj Yoga, Prem Yoga, any kind of yoga. If it is adopted by a yogi who wants to completely sublimate this Shakti and then use that Shakti for akhanda vritti, for unbroken connection with Paramatma while living in the body. That is its use. Very interesting. To establish or even come close to a moment-to-moment unbroken bond, unbroken connection with the divine, with Bhagavad Tattva, while living. Again, it's a very different type of a path. Remember, one needs to primarily be either in a religious organization or staying by themselves, single generally, or with family but still single, and has set an extraordinary destination, and to use that power only for two reasons, and that is bhakti and seva, and nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. Nothing else belongs. If anything else comes in there, that this Urdhva Reta Brahmacharya cannot be established. Bhul jao. If even the slightest other vasanas, other desires, other things about the world come inside this, finished. Oh, Brahmacharya aayega bhi nahi. Not this Brahmacharya. And this is a troubling situation for quite a few who have tried this and they don't become successful. There's thousands of reasons why the success is not there. But Sachin is going to talk about how to be successful in this. I want to get it recorded, and whoever may listen to it by the will of divine in the future, people now. Yes, now I do want to mention one thing. In the householder life, at some point, both husband and wife, after having children, grandchildren, whatever, at some point, who knows, they may decide to follow this type of a path where they don't want any more sexual contact, they want to live as spiritual seekers और अखंड भगवान की भक्ति करनी है, वो बन सकता है, आप कर सकते हो. If they are really aligned, if they have already gone through grahasthashram process properly, then vanprasthashram is for this reason. That's why the rishis divided life into 4 stages: Brahmacharya ashram, grahasthashram, vanprasthashram, sannyasashram. So ideally, that's how it would flow. That now the husband and wife they realize his body will go at some point. We need to now go beyond all of these, the sexual response cycle, and we want to now keep our attention towards the feet of Narayana. Bhagwan Narayan ke charan hai, charanarvind ma priti rakhi, Bhagwan na charanarvind ma priti rakhi. We want to go towards that. Yes, at some point that can be decided with the couple, and it's not an easy path, but because you've gone through in the grahasthashram all the bhog and grahasthashram ke jo sab anubhav hai, इसमें से पार निकल गए. Grahasthashram is an intermediary process to reach a state of non-entangled activity for akhanda bhakti. It is not a place to be trapped in or stuck in. It is a pass-through, to go through that, to come out of it in the best possible way. Out of it meaning one still is married and all that. That's not the point. But one is now sublimating and is coming close to this urdhvareta kind of situation. So it is not easy. From a sadhana point of view, it is the most extraordinary tapasya. वो तपश्चर्या कहो कि you can say सब नियमों जो है उसके राजा है ये ऊर्ध्वरेता ब्रह्मचर्य. Urdhvareta Brahmacharya is at the extreme top of all tapasya. It is at the extreme top of all sad acharan. It is at the extreme top of pavitrata. It is at the extreme top of energy dynamics and energy conservation. Yes, there are great sages who have been Urdhvareta Brahmacharis, and they're present today also. Some of them are there. It is an extraordinarily difficult sadhana from a sadhana point of view. But something that is extraordinarily difficult, it has many components that have to come together to get established in this. Now, please be careful. This is a path for either the grahasthas who are now out of the sexual response cycle and want to go for this. They can try this, yes, go in this. And it is also for those brahmacharis right from childhood, Bal Brahmachari, very rare. वो तो बहुत अलौकिक बात है. They are right because they have vairagya from beginning. They don't need to go into grahastha ashram. Yeah, that doesn't mean they don't experience the sexual maturity, but they are transmuting it. Usko wo gnan hai, or they have that destination that we want to sublimate this energy. So let's understand this a bit further. First of all, anybody trying to do this would be clear about one most important fact, that there is loss of Shakti in the sexual response cycle. This is something that sparks so clearly that ye antarik vaibhav, lot of this inner power is being used in bhoga, and it's being used, but it is also, it takes considerable time to recover, and it may not be possible to recover all of it. And also that same energy is needed to be used as a fuel, F-U-E-L, for unbroken connection in higher consciousness, unbroken contemplation, akhanda vritti, ananyas chintayanto mam. This is for those individuals who are having that courage, that tenacity, that will, that drive, कि भगवान का ही साक्षात्कार करना है और भगवान को छोड़ना नहीं, एक क्षण मात्र के लिए भी छोड़ना नहीं, ऐसी स्थिति. Now somebody might say, how do you live in this world trying to do something like this? You can live in the world, but then relatively, if that is set like that, Bhagwan kya karte? This is Sachin's humble commentary. And I'm sure there's many other perspectives, and would love to hear on that from anyone. If such a destination is set, and if there is sincerity, there is Guru Krupa, there is scriptural study, there's attempt to continuously hold God within the Bhagavan ka akhand dharak, akhand dharana karni. In Gujarati we say, Bhagwan ne akhand dharva. I'm not sure in Hindi how we say that. Bhagwan ko akhand dharan kijiye. Something, I don't know the exact Hindi in that. Something like that. Unbroken holding of God. Unbroken. I'm not talking about just going to churches or temples or gurudwaras every now and then, and not that kind of thing. We're talking about like 24 hours a day, to not let go of that Paramatma even for 1 second. Aisi jo sthiti hai. For that sthiti, this Akhanda Brahmacharya is necessary. It is Akhanda Urdhvaretas Brahmacharya. Divya Brahmacharya hai. And again, it is, even to try this is a big thing. And those who try it, 99% of them fail again and again and again and again. They'll not be successful in that. Unless there is a profound realization of the way that the sexual response cycle works and the conservation of Shakti for Bhakti. Completely. Because one may say that, one may even believe that, but it has to go deeper inside. It has to be understood from a Jnana point of view. It has to be internalized that this Shakti is not to be lost under any circumstances. That's how precious it is. So like Vivekananda Swami, as an example, he was an Akhanda Brahmachari. Yes, he reached that stage. Photographic memory, Medha Nadi. Medha Nadi opens up, these nadis open up. Amazing, extraordinary yogic powers open up when Akhanda Brahmacharya is there for 12 years or more. It's difficult for most people to do for 12 days even. Forget about 12 years. Akhanda Brahmacharya, I see about it. I have met saints like the sages. That they have this and they have an incredible memory and photo. I mean, they can meet thousands of people and remember everything, every conversation they had. They can read scriptures and remember everything about it. They can, like that. Vivekananda Swami had read the whole encyclopedia and had 99% accuracy or something like that, from the page number to page number. इसको कहते हैं मेधा नाड़ी. These are spiritual powers, yogic powers. Again, they are only used for bhakti and for seva. Yeah, it's not to be used, for ahankar. That's another danger in this thing. If this actually happens, which is very rare, one will become egotistical. Like, my God, I have so much, the ahankar come, that will thrash the individual. And it's no small thing. Urdhvareta Akhand Brahmacharya is extraordinarily rare. It's extraordinarily rare. ऐसी जो स्थिति है, it is written this way, that when such a brahmachari takes a bath, the gods of the heavens are standing in line to drink the drops of water falling from his or her body. Think about that. वो देवों के लिए भी दुर्लभ है. देवों भी नहीं कर सकते. That's what the scriptures say. Incredible. अद्भुत स्थिति है ये. अद्भुत स्थिति है. गुणातीतानंद स्वामी जी कहते कि जेने आવું ब्रह्मचर्य सिद्ध છે, देव नो पण देव છે. He is the God of the gods. Such an individual. भगवान के नजीक बहुत आ गए, like similar to Paramatma. ऐसी अलौकिक स्थिति है. But it comes with all the other saintly qualities and everything else is in there, because Shakti is not lost. There is such a profound understanding, realization that the total conservation of the sex energy, urdhva, in turning its direction upward, will break through all the blockages inside the chakras and it will open that doorway, Archi Marga, straight into Akshardham. In the Swaminarayan tradition, those who are familiar with this, the Tyagi sadhus, the renunciate sadhus, are trying to do just this. Their entire life is structured to hold Paramatma, Bhagavan, continuously within. It is a path that is drawn out by Bhagwan Swaminarayan or Sajanand Swami Maharaj. वो उनका दीक्षित नाम था, उनको जब दीक्षा दी थी सजानंद स्वामी नारायण मुनि, उन्होंने ये सब, this path of Urdhvareta Brahmacharya is massively emphasized in the Swaminarayan tradition, probably more than many other sampradayas in the Hindu tradition. It is there in other places also. Even other Vaishnava paths, they talk about it. But there are specific rules to follow. And if you don't follow them, it will be very difficult to actually reach this stage. And one of those rules for the renunciate sages is called Ashtanga Brahmacharya. Eightfold Brahmacharya, meaning 8 breaks in Brahmacharya are avoided. And that's why they have strict rules about connecting with the opposite sex or all that. They have to follow that because that's a sadhana. Now that doesn't mean that one is going to be a true brahmachari just because you're following that. No. Some people say, well, why can't you control your mind? Why do you need all these kind of restrictions? These restrictions are there to learn how to control the mind. Otherwise, if you already have control, realization, wo to baat alag hai. But anyway, that's a lot of controversy about all that stuff. I don't want to go into that here. The point is that the goal is Urdhvareta. Read Ramakrishna Paramahansa's Gospel, Ramakrishna Kathamrut. Throughout he talks about Brahmacharya. But he also outlines these 2 paths. So big saints have placed a lot of emphasis on this. वो तो सब ठीक है, but there's also just the personal experience. Is there any man who doesn't feel like, what am I doing here? They go through the sexual response cycle, they have an orgasm, they ejaculate, etc. I don't want to be graphic about that. I apologize for that, but I don't know how else to say that. And then there's an expression in Gujarati, Vishayana ante vairagya. It's not real vairagya, by the way. It just feels like, what is this? There's the desire is gone, extinguished for some time. Even the partners, there's whatever, all that thing is going on, but they don't, ichha hi sab nikal gayi. That happens. This is a refractory period in the sexual response cycle. Refraction, it is called. In that same refractory period in Gujarati language is described as Vishayana ante vairagya. It's not real vairagya. It is, after the orgasm happens, which is a psychological, neurological phenomena, a lot of energy is in that. The energy is just drained out, literally. If in the male body, particularly, the person has gone into certain kind of just a zero mind state for some time. That is not samadhi, by the way, but that is loss of tremendous energy. Vachanamrut, Garada Madhya 23. He mane luknu Vachanamrut. Maharaj says कि विषय ना सुख थी कल्याण मार्ग मती पड़ी जाए અને વિષય ના મળે તો દુખી થઈને કલ્યાણના માર્ગમાં પડી જાય. Kalyanno marg, meaning it is a path, it's a middle path of uplifting your energies outside of raga and dvesha. And eventually one has to get into this. In the Grahastha ashram is a process of trying to realize this truth. That how many years will go by in the same cyclical repetition, bhog, keep chasing these limited pleasures again and again and again and again and again and again and again. किसी का अंत आया है? Give it enough time. You see the trouble that happens in Urdhvareta Brahmacharya, trying to establish it. Stay away from this stimuli for 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. Then see what happens. You see something from memory will pop up. You see something on TV. You see the male sees some female form, and the mind starts becoming extraordinary. ये बहुत अलौकिक बात है. किसी की हिम्मत नहीं कि ये कोई कर सकेगा. And nobody wants to talk about this also. But this is the fact. Fact is a fact. To reach such a stage, I'm not even sure in the short time I don't have the timing to describe it. But in essence, it requires great realization at the very core that this Shakti is not to be lost in bhog. Vivekananda Swami had that realization. Swami Sajanand Maharaj और उनके जो सब परमहंस थे, अभी भी जो सब संत थे, they are trying to do this, or many have established in that. And to get established in Urdhvarita Brahmacharya, then whole life, it is a totally different life. Bhagavan Krishna Swayam, he says that I will reset the person's life so that he can reach me through this path. Yes, so that akhanda vritti can happen. Things will reset automatically in amazing ways so that that unbroken path can be reached. But remember, there is a path for those yogis and those bhaktas who are trying to do this right from, whenever they're trying to do it. But there's a lot of dangers of swinging back and forth. Anybody who engages in the sexual response cycle at some point feels, what nonsense is this thing? Why am I going after this? After going through it, after having an orgasm, what is it that happens? The whole thing is just Shakti sab nikal jati hai. Finish. And then a person feels, why am I bothering with this? And the spiritual people, they try again to do bhakti, this, that. But then they are pulled. It is a battle going on inside. In sadhana, and we don't want that battle. Anybody going into that battle will wind up in that battle for a long time, many births. That battle will go back and forth, back and forth. That battle can continue lifetimes. Even somebody is a sadhu and tyagi, but the internal desire is still there. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasiddhina harasavarjam rasopesya. Param drushtva nivartate. The battle is there, so that they don't enjoy in this life, but they are devotees of God. Vachanamrut mein likha hai that bhakta goes into the Svarga Loka, where Bhagwan keeps time away, and that person can enjoy what they want to enjoy in the Svarga Loka. And then comes back here again, has to master ekantik dharma gyan vairagya bhakti, and then can go into the Akshar Dham, Bhagvat Dham. Nobody can reach Bhagwan ka dham until and unless there is the relinquishing of these vasanas and the transmutation. And that can take, it can take lifetimes, or it can happen in this lifetime. It can happen even today. It's a matter of asserting, I am a Jivan Mukta. When we assert through bhakti, through sharanagati, through Guru Krupa, through scriptures, मैं कौन हूं? मैं मुक्त ही हूं. Bas, finish. Start with this notion. Don't move away from that. Then everything will reset. Automatically the Jnana will come. Bhakti will come. The Krupa of Radhika ji begins to dawn. That Krupa is going to come when we want that Krupa. And then what is the आनंद in that? इसको वर्णन नहीं कर सकते. इसको अनुभव का प्रश्न है ये. महा आनंद है इसमें. There are stages of आनंद. Ananda begins to open. Eventually, you get glimpses of this anandam, which is akhanda sukha, like akhanda joy. It's a continuous joy. Eventually, the ananda opens completely. Because there's no loss of Shakti. Every hour of every day is used in seva and bhakti without ahankar. Is this possible in householder life? Yes, of course. But the path is a bit different. You get a chance to see the Vishayas, experience the householder life. And then from that experience, having gone through it, one has vairagya for it. That this has, why vairagya? Because in householder life, one can see the limitations of these experiences by anubhav. Anubhav say, by going through your own experience, our own experience, we can see in householder life the limitations of the householder life. Now, there's two ways to learn anything in life. One is to go through yourself. The other is to observe others and to learn indirectly. There's two ways, right? There's two basic ways to learn anything. One is by one's own experience, and the Grahastha Ashram is a path of direct personal experience. You get to see what is family life. You get to see what is the sexual response cycle. You get to see what are the different mixtures of the experiences of the three gunas. Yes, that is a great thing. It's not a small, but if it is used as a doorway, as a means to realize Paramatma, then Grahastha Ashram is like none other. Because you don't have the internal reactions, although there can be so many. But there's an opportunity to experience the Panch Vishayas, the various enjoyments. But then there is also the opportunity to recognize and realize its limitation. And then eventually to leave it all alone and start this path towards Paramatma beautifully. And it reaches the same point. The Brahmachari, Urdhvareta Brahmacharya, in the Brahmacharya, eventually through Grahastha, it reaches the same point. That is the beauty of this. Now again, this path of Urdhvareta Naishtik Brahmacharya is called Naishtik. Naishtik kehte. Naishtik means, if I understand that word correctly, it means like one and only one path. It's like this is, the thing to do. Adbhut hai ye sab. It's quite extraordinary. And such individuals, they can be in the ordinary frame of life. They don't have to be in organizations. Or they could be. Or they could be sometimes in the nature or yogis and all that. Or they could just be people doing service to society. Regular individuals who they don't declare, they don't show off who they are. But they are using their Shakti for seva and for bhakti. They don't use it for anything else. And then what is the what is it that happens in this? I mean, how does one get established in this? Well, there's a couple of things that are extremely necessary. One is that our emotions need to be very balanced, steady, sthirta. Bhagwan ke saath sambandh jodna hai. So they have reached that point where they can contemplate on scriptures, they can contemplate on ideas, they can do a lot of sadhana, hours and hours and hours of sadhana. And it's a revitalization. They are able to revitalize and eventually reach that, come close to akhanda, unbroken connection. वो बहुत ऊपर की बात है. Usually even in this path, Urdhvareta, Brahmacharya, it takes time. It doesn't just happen like that. There's a whole process. And from that, there are some ups and downs. There's all kinds of difficulties happen in the first many years. Until you can really see that this entire power is given at the feet of God. That is very difficult. Because our ego and our brain, mind, everything is built in such a way for the Shakti to go downward. It is built that way, But when the Shakti turns upward, Adbhut hai. It's something magical is there, actually. You see, so it requires perseverance and practice, moral courage, creative drive, focused performance. Tremendous things are involved in this, Ojas gets conserved. The tejas, the tapasharya, the light, divine light shows up. Amazing. Conservation of Shakti by keeping our senses very, very pure. Urdhvareta Brahmacharya, इसमें एक totally different प्रकार का जीवन है ये. It's conservation, consolidation, refinement, application, and amplification. 5 points. Conservation of Shakti. Reducing burnout. Not to burn out the Shakti from inside by anger, by overindulgence, by overthinking. Nahi. conservation. We talked about energy conservation in the Angel Wing program. This is at the very top of that idea. Then consolidation. Conservation, consolidation. Adequate rest, adequate nutrition, right kind of food that suits a different type of physiology, where the virya, the internal subtle Shakti, is turning upward. This is all yogic science. Yes. And the nature of the mind and vasanas, this is very clear. So the vasanas, even though they may be present, they are transmuted by conservation, consolidation, refinement, application, and amplification. All these stages, they literally transform the vasana structure from inside out. That even if there is the contact with a so-called attractive person or attractive object or whatever, the internal mind is not moved at all. But if the mind begins to get disturbed, the internal energies begin to move towards the sexual response cycle. That means one is not a siddha yet in the Urdhvarita Brahmacharya. And this is the tricky thing, somebody may cut off from outside. What about from inside? Bahar se vishaya chhod bhi sakte hai, maybe. What about from the inside? So from the inside, this is where Brahmohi Pratishtaham. There's in fact some actually, what is that? There's a verse I wanted to quote for you, and I'm trying to find that. I'll have to find that. It's a most extraordinary point. It's from the Yoga Sutras. Give me just a second. Here, wait a minute. Hold on. Where are we here? It's called Brahmacharya Pratishtayam Vira Labha Yoga Sutra 2.38. That is the reference for this. And what that means is that when this type of Urdhvaretas is established, great vitality, Vira Labha. Vira means one is very courageous. One has great vitality. Virya, maybe it is. I think it's Virya. I have to see the Sanskrit actually. This is written in English here. I'll have to see the actual Sanskrit. Virya. Virya or Virya. Probably Virya Labha. It's Yoga Sutra 2.30. I'll look it up in Sanskrit and check it after we're done here. Upon establishment of Brahmacharya, one gains great vitality. And that is the law of energetic ecology. Energetic ecology. The yogic model of vitality operates not as a theology of sin, meaning papa, but as a physics of subtle life force. Energy conserved through restraint, consolidated through coherence, and amplified through transmutation. Amazing. It's a yogic model of vitality. If this is done, that such a person can be an individual who can impact the world at a very profound level, can help thousands and thousands and thousands of individuals on the spiritual path, on the regular path of life, can use that Shakti for extraordinary things. And spirituality is one thing, but in regular life, that Shakti is used for benefit in general. If somebody is a surgeon or a doctor or whatever, they'll be the best in that area. They'll be the topmost in that area. Yes. If someone is whatever there, it doesn't matter, teacher, any occupation, anything, you'll reach height in that, in the material world. You want to be a great businessman, Brahmacharya Palan kijiye. That's very nice. It is a way of keeping your internal powers intact, because our life depends on the Ojas Shakti. We talked about that a little bit before. For a couple of days, I think we had talked about it in the past. It's quite extraordinary. So the yogic model of vitality operates not as a theology of sin, meaning many times, people say this is a sinful thing. ये सब भोग में पाप है, ये है, वो है. So it could be. I'm not denying that. Maybe some traditions think of it that way. Even in Hindu tradition, this kind of thinking could be there. But it is more about a science. It's a psycho-spiritual, energetic science. It is called the physics of subtle life force, where there is a certain amount of conservation through restraint, energy conserved, because restraint is not suppression. Restraint is not suppression. Restraint is conservation for a much higher ideal. And this is true in the entire Ashtanga Yoga process. When we say, if I'm restraining my speech from, that I don't want to speak negative language, I don't want to speak harmful language, don't want to speak foul language, don't want to have negative thinking within myself, that is a type of restraint. It is a niyama. Yama is part of the yamas, right? It's a part of an internal control. Sham, Dam, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhan. This talked about in the Vivek Chudamani. Of course, but the restraint is not suppression. The restraint is a wisdom-based retraction of energy out of that particular type of activity for a much higher ideal. This is Sachin's interpretation of this line. आप विचार कीजिए इस पर. Think about this and try to go into it and see. The yogic model of vitality operates on the physics of subtle life force. So energy is conserved through restraint, point number 1. Point number 2, consolidation through coherence. Coherence. Everything comes together. Navada Bhakti, that's why we've been talking about Navada Bhakti. 9 forms of devotion bring about coherence inside our life. Make our life very regulated. We wake up before sunrise. We have good sattvic diet. We have good quality thinking, scriptural study, go to temples. ऐसा दिव्य जीवन बन जाता है. जीवन दिव्य बनाना है, शुद्ध बनाना है, फिर दिव्य बनाना है. That is called consolidation through coherence. That is stage number 2. Stage number 3. That the same subtle life force, that is the prana, that is the sex energy, it is amplified. It grows, meaning the Shakti, it grows in beautiful ways. And that growth from inside, that is called transmutation. It takes a different form. So the Urdhvareta Brahmachari, with the reduction and eventually the stopping of the loss of seminal discharge from the body, that same Shakti that is present behind the physical process is transmuted into Ojas, into Param Bhakti for Seva and Bhakti and higher contemplation. That is how Vivekananda Swami could write 13 volumes. That is how Vivekananda Swami could do what he had to do, travel continuously throughout the world and spread Vedanta. How did he do that? Where is the energy to do that, the intelligence to do that? It is in the Brahmacharya. Bade sant ho gaye. In the modern times also. Abhi bhi hai. They are able to do lot for society because their life is used by God, by Bhagwan, for seva. Bhagwan resides in these individuals for the purpose of seva. And the individual is not using one's Shakti and powers just for this limited bhoga. इससे बाहर निकल जाते हैं. Rag, Dvesh, Aham, Mamatva, Klesh, all those things dissipate. There are obviously obstacles. There's obstacles in everything. It doesn't matter what path one takes. There's always obstacles. There's always challenges. So what? Get up again. Get up and move on. Get up and move on. Get up and move on. Get it clarified further. Don't stop until the goal is reached. Vivekananda Swami's teachings are all about this. Don't stop until the goal is reached. Don't ever stop. Don't ever give up. It's like that. And that is how transmutation happens. And this is where our subtle energies are distilled from the body and mind. See this phrase, subtle essence of vitality from the body and mind is called ojas. Ojasvi ban jate hai. Aham ojas. I keep mentioning this, chapter 15 of the Gita. And that is our fuel. When we have, like, let's take the example of a car. I'll close with this point. I know it's over time. If we have full tank in the car and you want to use that fuel, how is it used? What is it used to go where? What is the destination with that fuel? Isn't it so? When we drive a car, we have a destination. We want to go somewhere. Similarly, this is our internal fuel. This is our antarik shakti. And what is the destination with this fuel? Whether one is a student, household, in student life, householder life, or after householder, any life, or a brahmachari. But, what is the destination? And then those individuals who are simply trying to increase bhoga, hedonism, bhogi karna, bhogi, okay? उनके लिए एक अलग path है. That is called Vam Marg Tantra. And I'll talk about that tomorrow or day after tomorrow. What that is. Because what do you do if a person has tremendous amount of vasanas? इसके लिए भी एक मार्ग है. How to eventually deal with that, come out of that thing and get back on the right-handed path towards Paramatma. And that's a whole interesting discussion in itself. But there needs to be a realization at some point that this experience of the sexual response cycle is an energy phenomena. Energy diversion phenomena. Energy utilization is there. So one may live a life of moderation. And by the way, there are some sadhus even who believe that this is not possible. I met an individual. I had spent 2-3 hours with him in Tennessee. I won't give you the name of the organization or the person because that would not be appropriate. But he's the main guru of a particular religious organization in Gujarat. And I was with him for several hours. And I had this long conversation with him about Brahmacharya. And he admitted to me specifically. He said it about himself. He says that he considers that this is not possible. Urdhvareta Naishtik Brahmacharya is impossible. Or he didn't really say it was impossible, but he said that is ek sharir ka ek dharma hota hai. Then up to that extent we believe. But then I said, isn't it all in the mind ultimately? He said, yes, that is correct. But he admitted that either he didn't want to do that or considered it in a different way, that in a certain amount of just physical process that has to go on. That is also a perspective, and I'm not criticizing Sachin is not criticizing anybody, not even rejecting that viewpoint. That is a valid viewpoint. Why not? I mean, because these are difficult concepts to understand. And if you're trying to conserve Shakti in the male body, isn't it so that at some point that this semen has to be discharged from the body? Isn't that so? Some people believe yes, that it will cause problems inside your sexual system if this is not discharged at some point. But there's those who believe that is not the case. It doesn't have to be. It's not clear. Even the medical science is not clear about this. So the yogic science would say this is possible. Urdhvareta is possible. Akhanda Brahmachari, jisko kehte hain. But it is extremely rare, extremely difficult, and one has to see how the body is constructed, how to transmute that. Isme yogic postures bhi, isme bahut kuch, so many things are involved in that to try to reach this. Ganada Madhya 33 Vachanamrut is also there. So it's a tricky subject. It's a tricky subject. Is it advisable? Somebody will say, I've had people say to me, the sexual experience is a great joy of life. Why should you deny it? I said to that person, don't deny it. You continue what you're doing. This is not for you. A discussion hi aapke liye nahi hai. Chodo. There's no point in arguing with anybody. Argument to karni hi nahi. And everybody has their tendency. So people say, no, we want to enjoy. They keep on enjoying. What else is there? Then that will be your life, and that will be your death also. That will be the end of it. There's nothing greater that will be achieved. But if you want to reach something extraordinary, iske liye ye baat hai. Vivekanand Swami didn't become Vivekanand Swami just like that. He became Vivekanand Swami because of Ramakrishna Paramahansa's Krupa and because of Brahmacharya. These are the two reasons why he became who he was, and he lit up the whole world because of this reason. Otherwise, if he could have just become an ordinary individual, lost all of his sexual prowess, even he may have been a very enlightened person, but you cannot do much for the world that way. Shakti nahi, aap Shakti nahi to kya karenge? Can't do anything for this sansar because the mind has lost its power. It's become dull. It has become, it has lost its energetic potentiality. And that is a realization on the yogic side. Yeah, Adbhut. You see, these are big things. But again, that doesn't mean that other people cannot realize great things. They can. Even in the regular sexual process, regular relationship, you can do so many great things. But it's this with the same power that it is done. Right? So there's no one perspective in this, multiple perspectives. So everything has its place. But I just wanted to get this recorded here because it's not something people talk about. Urdhvareta Naishtik Brahmacharya. Bhagwan Swaminarayan ke jo personal sevak the, Mukundananda Brahmachari, Moolji Brahmachari. He was Akhand Brahmachari. Maharaj has given a lot of praise to him, and that is the perspective of Shriji Maharaj. There are Brahmacharya ka point is written everywhere, but how is it applied? How is it understood? What happens in this? And then through the body, through the mind, how does this become a yogic transmutation? Does the New Testament talk about? These are subjects that, this is your topic hai iska. This can take me years to try to present this. It's that profound, but in short time, I'll try to present it as thoroughly as possible because it is very confusing to a tremendous number of people. And also, even in Christianity, those who try to follow this as monks and, as the Christian monks and all that, many of them have a lot of problems because they don't, whatever the reasons are, either they're not following their path properly or they have some issues of different kinds and they wind up, isko kehte vikruti aa jati hai. I don't want to describe all that thing too much, but you know what I'm talking about. बहुत विकृति भी आ गई है trying to follow urdhvareta brahmacharya. कर नहीं सकते और गृहस्थ आश्रम में भी नहीं जा सकते. They're stuck somewhere in the middle and they are hurting themselves and hurting their organization and hurting other people also. ऐसी भी situation है. So this is a very difficult subject. But anyway, भगवान को प्रार्थना, भगवान कृष्ण, भगवान राधिका जी, Mata Radhika ji, Devi Radhika ji, and all the incarnations of God, they bless us with the right understanding so we can follow the right path that suits us. That is what is written in the Gita also. So with that prarthana, we'll continue on this further. Let me do the closing mantra and then we'll open it up for some brief Q&A. Om Vakradundamākāya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurumedeva Sarvakarishu Sarvadaum Gangadavate Namaha. Om Aim Rim Klim Chamundaye Vichai Swaha. Om Durge Durge Rakshini Tata Swaha. Shri Radha Krishna Arpanamastu. Om Shri Radha 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 Shri Radha Ye Namaha. Shri Krishna Ye Namaha. Om Namo Narayanaaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Hrim Swaha.